Hey there, friends. It's Chris Swanson, and welcome back, as always, to Trinity's Digital Confirmation. This is lesson number 15, and it's called When Bad Things Happen. You can probably guess by that title that today we're going to get real, we're going to get heavy, we're going to be a bit vulnerable. And I think that's okay to do, and it's important to do. It's part of our faith that there are times when things don't go how we hope, when heartache is involved, or grief or loss, or we do something that causes that pain. And it's important to consider and to recognize where God is in the middle of all of that. Okay? 30-second recap. We've been following the story of God and God's people throughout the Old Testament. Last week we took a little pause on that story to consider the books in the middle of the Bible, the books of poetry and wisdom, Psalms, Proverbs, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and that they have a different place in our faith in the scripture we read, because those are things that reflect the whole experience of human emotion. They are sometimes poems, songs, pieces of worship, prayers that are lifted up that reflect all range of emotion, whether thanksgiving, praise, joy, sadness, sorrow, heartache, anger, frustration, praise of thanksgiving to God, and so much more. So now we continue from that. We're reading the book of Job, and this drills into one man, Job. It's spelled like Job, J-O-B, just how it is. And he's a man who seems to have everything. And then something happens, and he experiences loss. And when you think about, fairness or unfairness and expectations and the grief and the sorrow of all that, the anger that he might feel, and we see his reaction to God. And then we get God's reaction and response back to Job. And in the end, where does that leave Job? And why is that important to our faith? So that's what we're here to consider today. Okay, first thing I want you to do, we're going to go watch a clip from another resource, then come back with our assignments and wrap up some conversation around the scripture from Job. Okay, so here on YouTube, search for our friend Rob Bell, Pneuma Whirlwind, and it might look like this or this. So go search that, Pneuma Whirlwind, and watch that video. It's about a 12-minute video in which Rob Bell helps us consider Job's story as a man, a wealthy man who seems to have it all: family, possessions, wealth, business, whatever earthly way you want to measure stuff, he has it. Loses it, and again, his reaction. The video feels a bit long because it's Rob Bell walking on this long, I don't know if it's a road or like a landing strip or something like that, a runway, where, and he's reciting God's response to Job, and basically what God has to say back to sort of answer, Job's pleas and questioning. Okay, getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's pause, go check out that video, come back together in a moment. Really the only other thing you need, you can see I've got my candle here as a reminder of God's Spirit among us as we grow and learn together. So, pause to watch Pneuma Whirlwind. Okay, it's been 10 to 12 minutes. Ta-da! Hit play and let's resume. Okay, Job is a good man. He's a faithful man. He's got a family, like 10 kids, thousands of cattle of all kinds, right? So he's got to have a lot of land. He's got a house. He throws these extravagant birthday parties, and then poof, it's all gone. A bunch of different things happen. Um, and we learn that Job throws himself on the ground, literally naked before God, saying, "Here I am in all my ache, my loss, my grief, my anger, my wondering. Here I am," and yet he still worships God. And so there's some curious things there. This tension as he feels loss, and also turns toward God amidst that loss. When we consider Job, we consider his story and what we learned from Rob Bell, I want you to think about this question of, do you think, what is the difference between asking God or accusing God? What could that look like? So we'll have a couple of these questions. Find someone in your family, trusted adult, that you can just share brief conversation. Pause to do that. Hit play when you're back together. All right. If we think in our own lives, think in your life, when is the time you've been angry with God? And what did that look like? What was going on? From my life, I think of these times, these ups and downs that have come through my life where I've experienced loss. Tends to be around like the death of a loved one, maybe a family pet, or some big change, whether that was like a job change, for a parent, or like moving, why you have to move. And for me, I think of those were times that I felt angry. I have questions of like, why is this happening, God? Like, why is this happening now or to me? Because it seems like I'm not ready for it. And maybe that person could have handled it better. Maybe they were ready, but I'm not. I didn't want this. I didn't ask for it. So why, God? I had a particular season of loss, a short time in my life when a number of things happened, from my grandma dying to a relationship changing, loss of a pet, and lots of little things in between that just always felt like, where are you in this, God? It's kind of Job's question of, where are you? You don't seem near to me. And we learn from God's reaction, God's response, when Job has these feelings also, the same things that we feel in our times when we feel angry with God or at a loss. God responds and says, well, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? And it goes on for a long time. But basically, where were you, Job? Where were you? Who do you think you are to ask these questions of me? And it's interesting how God absorbs those questions from Job. Just as God absorbs our feelings of grief and loss, heartache, wondering, anger. And reminds us in that question of where were you when I laid this out, God reminds us that God is here. God was there with us, and God is here now. And that's really important. Sometimes we feel like we can't see God. We don't know God is here. But the truth is, God is here. So, friends, at the end, Rob Bell wrapped up this video. He said, because your story is not over, the last word has not been spoken, there may be way more going on here than any of us realizes. So we try to have perspective. We try to listen to what God is saying through other people in our lives, and take time to look back. We tend to want to rush forward through those feelings when something bad has happened. We want to rush forward and make it all better, or, moving on. But we need to sit in it and process it for a while, and then later have the scope to look back and see what else was going on. So, friends, thank you for taking time to do this lesson as always, but especially as you consider the weight that Job's story might evoke in our lives. And that's really important work to do. So thank you for sharing your stories. May God be with you in all things, even when bad things happen. And may you remember that God's presence is among you, surrounding you with other people and with a grace and love and peace and mercy that is completely beyond our understanding. Be safe and be well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.